scholars, our current students, and of course, the incoming batch of the postgraduate students at MIRM. To their family members, a very warm welcome. It is my honor to start the MAHE Bengaluru ARAMBH orientation for the Manipal Institute of Regenerative Medicine 2026. This year's theme of ARAMBH is Begin, Build, Belong, which reflects our shared commitment to learning, innovation, and creativity, and to make a vibrant academic community for all the incoming students. We hope this program will not only introduce you to MIRM, but also the values to embrace the opportunities, challenges, and experiences that lie ahead. To invoke the blessing of the Almighty, we shall begin today's program with a traditional invocation.
Hello, hello. सर्वभूतेषु चेतनेत्यभिधीयते नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु बुद्धिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शान्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु श्रद्धारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु तृष्णारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु स्मृतिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु मातृरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः
With the blessing of the Almighty, I would like to invite our dignitaries up to the stage for the lamp lighting.
Lights. ಇದು ಮಣಿಪಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಮಿಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಆ ಟೈಮ್. ಓಕೆ,
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः
We continue the ceremony by paying our respects to our visionary founder of MAHE, Dr. TMA Pai. I invite their dignitaries to offer the floral tribute to Dr. TMA Pai, our founder. ठीक है? Okay. Okay. ठीक है. Thank you all. I request the dignitaries to please take their seats. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our dignitaries for making time to come here to grace the occasion of our orientation, and we would like to offer them a memento to felicitate the dignitaries. With this, I would like to invite Dr. Jyoti to present the vision behind MIRM and its sword. Please, Dr. Jyoti, our Dean, come to the stage to present your presentation titled Journey of MIRM.
Welcome everybody to the beautiful MAHE Bengaluru campus and to the Manipal Institute of Regenerative Medicine, the first institute in Asia to start a program at master's level in stem cells and regenerative medicine back in 2007, right? So today I'm going to take you through the journey of how the institute was conceptualized and how from being a simple college running one course, it has bloomed into a research institution of repute. So the title of my talk, if you look at it, says, Lead the New Era of Precision Medicine and Get Future Ready at MIRM. What does precision medicine mean? When you look at medicine as such, it has always been clinically evidence-based medicine, right? Where you have an ailment, you treat the symptoms, right? But if you look at problems in the world globally as such, you have distinct gene pools, you have distinct predisposition to diseases, individuals are different, sex-related differences could influence diseases, age-related symptoms could exaggerate diseases, so no two individuals are separate, be it gene pool, be it the kind of environmental influences they are exposed to, metabolic, social, genetic, etc., etc. So definitely, in a futuristic world, we don't need a solution which fits everybody. So you need treatments which are precise, you need treatment which are personalized. And that's where regenerative medicine is the way to go in the future. And I'm going to assure you that the master students who are going to get trained in our programs would be probably future ready. So to take you through the journey of MIRM, it started in a hospital, precisely in the 9th floor of Manipal Hospital, Domnur campus, where we were the first. Even at that time, Manipal was visionary in thinking that allogenic mesenchymal stem cells could be a bench-to-bedside approach for several disorders, specifically the ones which have an immune predisposition to that. And at that time, Professor Ramdas Pai, Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Ramdas Pai had visited to look at our facilities, and he was discussing about the kind of problems we are facing at the Stem Cell Research Center. And the problem at that time was not having adequate manpower or the human resource to run the center. And that's where the visionary he is. He said, why don't you start a course? Because either we were getting a somebody from a molecular biology background or a biochemistry background or an immunology background, but we didn't have students or manpower who had an integrated understanding of all these. And that's where Dr. Ramdas Pai suggested a panel of 4 or 5 of us, including me, who had, along with Dr. Tote, and he said that why don't we start a program where we nurture this young breed who have this interdisciplinary knowledge. And that's where we started as a master's course. And for 6 months, we had gone through the syllabus and the curriculum and how it should be. Therefore, the seed of this course or the seed of this institution was in a clinic or a hospital. And that's where you can see that most of our courses have disease mechanisms and are translational in nature. So what started in a clinic extrapolated to starting an academic program, and we were the first in Asia to have a master's program to get this breed of first batch of students who could have this interdisciplinary understanding. So the challenge was to develop a course curriculum which is integrated, which is clinically relevant, and to get ready a set of youngsters or Gen Z who could actually solve the problems of the real world. So the agenda was to educate, mentor, and lead with a purpose of generating a manpower who could lead the field of regenerative medicine. So what started as a course, then we had another revision. We thought that you can't have classroom teaching and you can't have generalized practicals because the field is also at its infancy in 2006, 2007. In 2006, actually, Yelahanka gave his talk on the Nature paper where he had discovered that fibroblasts can be reprogrammed to induce pluripotent state. That was in 2006. And 2007 was a time when our stem cell program was conceptualized. So you can see that we definitely had a headway in starting this program. So the course curriculum had to have a research component because you can't teach just genome engineering, you can't just teach immunology or cancer biology. You need to have an integrated approach, and then you also have to render the knowledge which is still developing at that stage, at that time in 2007. So what started as academics ended up being academics integrated with research. And that's where we started having an exhaustive project-based course curriculum where the students not only just learn, they also ask relevant questions and they test it in their Petri dish and they test it in the lab. So the boundary between the lab, the boundary between the classroom started getting blurred as we progress through this program. So now, as of 2026, we are a very research integrated academic institution of prominence in India, right? So the teachers who are going to teach you in this institute are not just lecturers, they're also faculty of repute. They have been internationally trained. They have focused research groups in different areas. And they have a group of PhD students, JRFs, who are going to sub-mentor you guys when you come to the labs for your projects. So from this where, I think innovation is something which is futuristic, and I would wish that MIRM students who are trained in research, who are trained well in academics, would take the knowledge which they have gained in MIRM to the next level to drive innovation, drive translation, and drive impact for thousands of people who are looking for research solutions where there is still an unmet need of understanding of disease, right? I always tell in my classes that there are more cancer biologists than cancer patients, but still we don't have solution apart from the general cytotoxic, cytostatic inhibitors. We don't have a specialized therapy for cancer, right? So we would wish, the vision of the institute is to transform clinical insights into impactful research, which we are doing, and we want the next generation to translate this impactful research into innovation and drive impact in the clinical sector. So previously, the drug discovery or the pharmaceutical industry used to rely on animal models, right? But mice are not men, be it physiology, be it their sleep-wake cycles. In fact, mice are nocturnal, right, the murine. They have different metabolism than humans. So many of the drug trials which had happened in the mice were not valid in humans as well. Some of the anti-diabetic drugs, right, which were developed in the mice failed very miserably when it went to the human clinical trial. So definitely you need a set of people who work on human models. But the problem here is, can you start experimenting in humans? No, nobody would allow you to do it. So you need humanized models to ask these questions before it can be taken to the clinic. And that's where regenerative medicine as a field has emerged. So what you see here is basically it's basically an intestinal organoid with lumen, with columnar cells. So this is the kind of precision you can create in a Petri plate using stem cells and their derivatives. And you can use them as high throughput platform to discover drugs, and then these drugs can be tested in more detail. So when we talk about the core of personalized medicine or precision medicine, it's not just enough that you make organoids or you have organotypic models, but in case you want real solution in the clinic, some of the derivatives which you have got has to be transplantable. And that's where you need to have knowledge of immunology. about rejection. And yeah, so the three, am I audible? Yeah, I'm sorry. So the three programs which have developed in our institution have developed because of the need for research in personalized medicine and regenerative medicine. So we started with a course in stem cell biology in 2007. 3 years back, we started a course on translational neuroscience because most of the degenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease, age-related diseases, dementia, Alzheimer's have problems with neurodegeneration or so neuroregeneration is something which many of the people are looking forward. So we thought we should have a translational neuroscience program. And then, of course, like, you can't talk about stem cells without transplantation, scaffolds. They should be immune acceptable, and that's where we have the translational immunology program. And it was very surprising, like when I was looking at making the slides, in the past decade, you have Nobel laureates who are working, Yelahanka in 2006 with his discovery of how the fibroblast can be reprogrammed to an embryonic state, giving us the model system to study even human development. Till that time, we didn't even have model systems to study it. And then translational immunology, Jim Allison, and the recent Treg, the Nobel Prize to the Treg discoverers, strengthen our claim that, yeah, we did in fact start a translational immunology program. We started it basically because COVID, actually during COVID time, a set of few people thought that we should in fact have a translational immunology program. So you can see that all the three programs which are in our institute are based upon the unmet needs of what the society wants. And we definitely want to build a group of youngsters who can lead these fields and find solutions in the clinic. So, coming to the course curriculum, what are the highlights of our course? The course is more built on experiential learning rather than rote memory. So you will see that most of the classes which happen in the morning have a practical component in the evening. So obviously, whatever you are learning in the class, you are going to see it in the lab. The learning is very interactive because the faculties are going to give you assignment, they're going to give you quizzes once they finish a set of modules. So it's not just an exam at the end, it is continuous assessment which is continuously happening, and it is more interactive. Some of the assignment would actually tweak your brains because you need to give your opinion or you need to critique that paper. So it is not just classroom teaching, it is going to be a 360 degrees experience in terms of learning. Since most of the teachers who are teaching have focused research groups, they are researchers by heart, so that research focus comes into the teaching, so you would get the flavor of research right from the first semester. So you would start thinking in that direction, and you can start building your problem statement right in the first semester as to what you would do in the second semester. So the emphasis is on project work. The teaching or the theory component is less. I know most of the students would find it hard in the first semester because a lot of concepts will be taught because it's an interdisciplinary program and people are coming from heterogeneity, right? Either from biochemistry or microbiology. So we need to get all these peoples together. So the basic courses will be taught in the first module. So our courses are very modular. So we finish biochemistry, we finish lab methodology, and then come to clinical application of stem cells, or then come to principles of regeneration, so that we take you through the journey. And whatever is required for the understanding of the advanced courses are taught in the first semester, first half in a modular way. So there is a lot of emphasis on research. So the students are encouraged to publish, write review articles, and the faculty are going to handhold you through this process. Apart from that, in our board of studies, we have eminent scientists. We also are in the process of getting industry leaders into the BOS so that we can continuously revise our curriculum based upon industry needs. So the MIRM strength would be our star faculty who have been involved in extraordinary research in the best places in India and the world. We have a student-oriented coursework. We continuously keep taking feedback from the students, and wherever we see redundancy, we take it out. And in case we are missing something, because the field is still advancing, right? Most of these fields, like translational immunology or neuroscience, I mean, till a long time, people didn't even know that neurons can regenerate, right? They thought we had to live with the neurons which we are born with, right? So concepts are being thought of. Concepts are being redeveloped. So obviously, we need a back and forth with our industry leaders, with eminent scientists in India and abroad, and with also our students who are our stakeholders. We have national and international collaborations. MAHE as such has a lot of MOUs with multiple international universities, so the students are going to benefit from that collaborations, and if somebody wants to do a project in their 4th semester, and some of these universities, we are there to facilitate it. So the focus is to have an outcome-based education, an education which just doesn't depend on memory, but an education which makes an impact. So these are our course coordinators. So the 3 programs are very, very diligently run by our course coordinators who take care of the scheduling and any kind of problems. You can always meet them. Dr. Shagufta Praveen, can you please stand? She would be taking you through the course curriculum and the attendance requirements, the credit system. And I'm going to tell you that she's one of the most diligent and the toughest teacher in MIRM, and Dr. Milan Francis, who is not there because of some personal emergencies at her house. And the translational neuroscience program is being coordinated by Dr. Anand. Dr. Anand, yeah, he has done his research training, PhD in NIMHANS, and he has huge experience in neurophysiology. Dr. Urmi Bandopadhyay, yeah, she is more into molecular and cellular neuroscience, and both Dr. Anand and Dr. Urmi would be there for the neuroscience students in case they have any difficulties in understanding or otherwise. Translational immunology, me here, along with Dr. Uttara, who is an expert in host pathogen interactions and flow cytometry. So we will be there. We will be sharing you the course curriculum and the timetables. We have also shared you the mentor-mentee list, so you can always come back to us whenever you have a problem. We have huge learning resources. We have ebooks, we have protocol subscriptions, we have statistical software which you will be using during your project work. So all these are available. Dr. Meenal is the one who takes care of all this, and she will be soon sharing with you the library resources and the softwares which are available for you to use. So the research specializations in our institute are very, very interdisciplinary. At one hand, we have people who work on, faculty who work on core developmental biology principles. We have faculty who work on host pathogen interactions. We have a huge team who works on neurobiology principles, neurodegeneration, immuno-oncology, immunology, cell biology, and looking at how in-depth fate changes are regulated. We work on a lot of gerontological diseases. We are going to be soon an aging population because the Gen Z is shrinking and the aging population is increasing. I mean, Japan is one example. And geriatric diseases are a real-life problem. So many of the researchers are working on metabolic and aging-related diseases as well. So these are your faculty, and you would meet them more in the classroom, and each of them are experts in their own domain, and they are going to get their expertise when they teach it in your class. So combined, you can see that MIRM is very lucky and privileged to have huge grants from the government agencies. So the labs of all these faculties are run by extramural funding and some support from MAHE. MAHE had been like really, really good in giving us the infrastructure and the facility to sustain these research programs. So just from February to April itself, we have a combined grant of approximately 8 crores, which is procured by just 12 faculties. And this focused research programs are run by dedicated scholars. So our research publications have been very consistent and they are very well cited across. So our faculties are leaders in their own research verticals, and that is going to translate to the benefit of the students, because when somebody asks me that, do you have placement, like a technical program, I don't know what to say. Because we don't have a placement cell, but we do have a placement guidance. And Dr. Sangeeta Nath, can you please get up? So she is the placement coordinator or placement, she guides students for placement in MIRM. And most of the time, the placement is always word to mouth, because before we can actually retain them, they are already taken. Because during project work, we call externals from NCBS, IAC, from the industry. So if they like our students, you know, they just take them for as JRFs or research associates in their programs. So apart from this, MAHE is one of the rare university who spends a lot of budget, or the EBITDA, if I call so, on research. And during that time, it doesn't really look at profit. Professor Raghavendra is there. Our EBITDA will be always event, right? But still they encourage us because we do great research. And in an IRF ranking, apart from IAC and JNU, we are the third in the private university. So you can say that we are the top among the private universities. And this NIRF ranking is also because that MAHE is very, very supportive of research. So for the PG programs, we have a fund of around 20,000 rupees for if they want to present their project work in conferences, they want to travel, or they want to give seminars. So this can be used either for traveling, for conferences, or if they are publishing, then that can be used for the APC charges. There is a publication incentive. If somebody publishes in the first year itself, then you have a 25% fees waiver in the next year. Apart from that, we have Achievers and Merit Scholarship, which probably you can talk to Dr. Shagufta or me if you have any questions regarding that. Apart from that, a new initiative which MAHE has taken in the past 2 years is something called as a Pathway PhD program, and I want the students to make use of it because all our courses are research intensive. So if you are in the first 2 or 3% of the class, and if there is a vacancy for a PhD opportunity in any of the groups in MIRM, then based upon your problem statement, which you have conceptualized during your project work in your second semester or third semester, you can extrapolate into a full-blown PhD problem statement by opting for a Pathway PhD program. The advantage of this is you lose out, you gain on the time because you already are into the PhD, and you will be given a scholarship right from the third and fourth semester, and you will get into the TMA Pi fellowship for the next 3.5 years. So basically, it means that you will have a fellowship for more than 4 years. So please do well and make utilize of this program. So we don't have a very, very aggressive marketing team. Our alumni are our cheerleaders. Our alumni are our marketing group. No offense to Dr. Sangeeta. You have done a great job, but I would want to give a bit of credit to our alums as well, who always keep coming back to us. And this is Dr. Joseph. He is from our first batch of masters, and he is actually leading a group at University of Cambridge. So these are our initial batches who are already showing research leadership. So they are leading labs, they are leading scientists abroad. So obviously, the vision with which we started, that we need to breed a group of students who will lead research and innovation in this field, is sort of getting fruitful. So apart from that, we also have emerging industry leaders. So you can see that Dr. Nisha, she's a scientific director in a leading therapeutics company in the UK. And please do listen to her talk. She's coming in the August first week itself to give an alumni talk. And she will talk about her journey from the bench to the bedside, and then the fundamental research, and then coming back to applicative research. So please do attend it. It would be in the first week of August. And Dr. Meenal, who is our alumni coordinator, will give you details of our alumni in case any one of you would want to get in touch with them. So our recent batches, these are the last 2-year batches. Already they are hired. I call them the Sony sisters, Elvin and Lauren. One of them is in ISC, one of them is in IIT. So most of the national institutes are absorbing them. Some of them have gained positions in the industry as well. So this is Pratyush from our translational immunology program. We encourage any offline or offbeat thought processes. He actually had written a small project to the lunar aerospace mission, where he got a lunar aerospace medicine research fellowship. When you go up to the space, your NK cells and your immune competency decreases. So he had put up a proposal on a scaffold which is immune responsive and can prevent the dysfunction of NK cells and macrophages, for which he got a huge fellowship, and probably he will take his interest forward. He has finished his master's right now. So definitely what I want to tell here is the sky is the limit. We are there to encourage you. We are there to mentor you. We have a lot of collaborations from the industry as well as academia. So you do get benefited from these partnerships and from these academic collaborations. And we encourage students. Sometimes the students are part of a problem statement which is done at both MIRM as well as these institutes. Apart from that, we are a very agilent, very, very enthusiastic institute, where we have monthly journal clubs given by PhD students, and it's like an open forum where master students are encouraged to attend it and then know about what is the cutting edge research which is happening. We also have industry immersion programs every year, where we take the students to look at how industrial R&D is done, what are the quality parameters which you have to look at when you're doing industrial manufacturing, be it immune therapeutics or stem cells. So this is basically Dr. Uttara going with the students to Biocon, and recently they have, why is it not working? So this is stem cell students visiting the IVF clinic. This is the immunology, stem cells, and the neuroscience students visiting the Beckman Coulter's research center, where they were shown advanced flow cytometry applications. So what I'm going to say is your 360 degrees journey starts here. So it's never going to be a unidimensional learning at MIRM. You are going to be emerging as a full-blown academician, as a full-blown researcher who makes a calculated choice, an informed choice about a future career after having a spice of interdisciplinary knowledge in several fields in this institution. So with this, I welcome the new batch. I would want to assure the parents who have a lot of question marks in their faces right now, but when they will be attending the convocation, I'm sure they will come back to me and tell me that my ward had really a 360-degree experience. and we are fully satisfied. And I look forward not just for that, but also for feedback. Because without criticism, without you guys are the ones who are going to tell us, right, you feel something needs to be done, please do come up to me and say that, probably we should include these concepts in the courses. We are open. So that is how we function in the institute. And welcome to Manipal Institute of Regenerative Medicine. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Prasanna, for your enlightening words and for telling us all about MIRM's journey, the accomplishments and aspirations. We would like to play a message from our leadership, Dr. Ballal and Rao, at this moment.
My dear students, we are delighted to welcome you to the MAHE family. As you embark on this new journey at the Bengaluru campus, we are excited to have you join our vibrant community of learners. At MAHE, you will find a supportive environment where you can explore your interests, pursue your academic goals, and build lifelong friendships. We are committed to providing you with the highest quality education and opportunities for personal and professional growth. Remember, education is not just about acquiring knowledge, it's about applying it, challenging the status quo, and making a meaningful impact in the world around you. Embrace every opportunity that comes your way, whether it's in the classroom, during extracurricular activities, or through the internships and community engagements. Once again, welcome to MAHE. Let's make this an incredible journey together.
A very good morning and greetings from Manipal Academy of Higher Education, deemed to be university and institution of eminence. First of all, my heartfelt congratulations to the new students who are admitted in our Bengaluru campus. Bengaluru campus is a very vibrant campus, a modern campus when compared to all other campuses across India and abroad. My sincere thanks to the parents for allowing your children to be under us for their professional development. For both students and parents, there are three things which are going to happen to your ward when he is with us. One, he is maturing as an adult. Number two, he is learning to be independent. And number three, he is going to be a professional in his life. It is important for both of us, parents and administrators, to work together so that your ward will become a successful professional. It's important that our aim in Bengaluru is to provide holistic development for the students. We provide an environment for curricular, extracurricular and co-curricular activities. You can go and visit all our sporting facilities, which will help him to relieve his stress during his academic journey. It's important that the student puts hard work, gets into passion in the profession he has chosen. He has to be very creative to become a successful professional. I hope your children have got all these capacities, and we will provide a very healthy, safe environment for him to develop as a successful professional. Thank you.
With that, I would like to invite Dr. Prabhu, our additional registrar as well as Director of Administration, to speak about MAHE Bengaluru, its legacy, values, and all the opportunities offered here to the students. Thank you, sir.
Dignitaries on and off the dais, the faculty members, parents, staff members, the university administrators, my dear students, it is my privilege to be here for the orientation program ARAMBH for the newly admitted the PG students of MIRM. As Dr. Jyoti Prasanna mentioned, MIRM is the first institution to start the course on stem cell way back in 2007. At the same time, I would like to inform you that this is one of the first institution under MAHE Bengaluru, started way back in 2007. So after that, we have added many institutions. So first of all, congratulations to all the students for securing admissions to MIRM, which is one of the research intensive institution under MAHE and MAHE Bengaluru. And so regenerative medicine, it is one of the most exciting frontiers of modern science, whether it is stem cell biology, tissue engineering, biomaterials, gene editing, precision medicine, or translational research. Your work has the potential to redefine the treatment or diseases that were once considered as incurable. The discoveries made in laboratories made today will become tomorrow's clinical solutions, and many of those discoveries may come from researchers sitting in this very hall. At MAHE, we believe that the research is not merely about publishing papers, it is about solving real world problems and improving human lives. During your journey here, you will have the opportunity to work with the accomplished scientists, collaborate across the disciplines, engage with the clinicians and industry experts, and contribute to cutting-edge research that has national and global importance. One of the greatest strengths of MAHE Bengaluru is its multidisciplinary ecosystem. On this campus, you will interact with engineers developing biomedical devices, designers creating healthcare innovations, management students working on healthcare entrepreneurship, law students studying bioethics and intellectual property, and experts from several other disciplines. These collaborations often lead to the most impactful innovations. Beyond academics, I encourage you to actively participate in seminars, workshops, conferences, innovation challenges, patent development, entrepreneurship initiatives, and outreach activities. So these experiences will shape you into not only outstanding scientists, but also effective communicators, innovators, and leaders. Our Bengaluru campus provides an excellent environment for your academic journey with world-class laboratories, modern classrooms, advanced research facilities, sports infrastructure, library, innovation center, and a vibrant student community. Over the next 2 years, you will undoubtedly encounter many challenges. Experiments may fail, hypotheses may change, the results may not always as expected. Remember that scientific progress is built upon persistence, resilience, and continuous learning. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and I'm going to just take you through the MAHE and MAHE journey for the next 5 to 10 minutes. As you already seen, the visionary of Manipal, Dr. T.M.A. Pai, the Padma Shri awardee, he started one of the first self-financing medical institution way back in 1953 in the form of Kasturba Medical College, Manipal, and from there we have added many other professional higher educational institutions, and today we have more than 31 professional higher educational institutions under MAHE and more than 7 university teaching departments. His distinguished son, Dr. Ramdas Pai, the Chancellor of MAHE, he took Manipal away from Manipal to other cities of Manipal or India and abroad. And today we have 4 campuses in India and 2 campuses in abroad. MAHE aims for global leadership in education and human development. Integrity, transparency, teamwork, quality, and compassion define our culture. And these values should guide your professional journey at MIRM Bangalore. As I already mentioned, from a single medical college in 1953, MAHE has evolved into a multidisciplinary global university. The establishment of MIRM reflects MAHE's commitment to advanced biomedical research. You are now contributing to this continuing journey of excellence. MAHE has campuses across India and internationally. This global network offers opportunities for collaborations and learning, and you are now part of a worldwide academic community. MAHE offers outstanding academic programs supported by experienced faculty and excellent infrastructure. Our international collaborations and alumni network create numerous opportunities. Take full advantage of these resources throughout your postgraduate program at MIRM. MAHE consistently ranks among the India's leading universities. These rankings reflect excellence in education, research, innovation, and societal impact. Your research contributions will strengthen this global reputation. The recent addition to this ranking is the THE Higher Education Impact Ranking, where MAHE stood number 1 worldwide for gender equality and number 5 in good health and well-being, and number 25th for the quality education 2026 worldwide. MAHE has earned several prestigious national and international accreditations, and these certifications reflect high academic and institutional standards. They enhance the value and recognition of your degree globally. Diversity is one of the greatest strengths. Every student deserves a safe, inclusive, and respectful learning environment. At MAHE Bengaluru, together we build a vibrant and supportive campus community. As I already mentioned, MAHE Bengaluru campus is a rapidly growing multidisciplinary campus. In this campus, we have 7 professional higher education institutions, where MIRM has started first in 2007, and after that we have added Manipal College for Health Profession MCHP in 2010, and then in 2020 we have added SMI, Srishti Manipal Institute of Art, Design and Technology. 2021 we started Manipal Institute of Technology Bengaluru. In 2022 we have added TAPMI, the TAPI Management Institution Bengaluru, Manipal Law School Bengaluru, and Department of Liberal Arts, Humanities, Social Sciences, and Department of Commerce. And recently, in the last month itself, these 2 departments have got the institution status. And our academic blocks feature modern classrooms and collaborative learning spaces. Technology-enabled infrastructure enhances the learning experience. Use these facilities responsibly to support your academic success. Today we have 6 academic blocks. 1 more academic block is under construction. With the completion of all these academic blocks, we can support around 15,000 to 16,000 students in this campus. And currently we have 11,500 students in the campus. This slide may not be applicable to you, as we are not offering any hostel facility for any of the PG students because of the scarcity of the room. We are coming up with 1 more hostel block with 3,100 beds, and that will be completed in the next 2.5 years. With the completion of that hostel block, we will be able to support all our UG, PG and PhD students. So research is the foundation of the Manipal Institute of Regenerative Medicine. You are encouraged to publish research papers, file patents, and present your work at conferences, and aim to create research that improves patient care and advances biomedical science. The campus provides excellent infrastructure, administrative, dining, and student support facilities, and these services are designed to enhance your overall campus experience. So these venues host conferences, lectures, debates, and cultural events. We have 300-seater auditorium, 1,030-seater auditorium, which is Dr. Ramdas Pai Convention Hall, and 2 outdoor stage where generally we are having all these cultural events. The marina, the indoor sports complex, 1,70,000 square feet indoor sports complex. Physical fitness is important for the academic success and well-being. Maintain a healthy balance between the academics and recreation. So this marina facility is open in the morning 6 to 9 and also in the evening 3:30 to 9. As you are not staying in the hostel, but still you can make use of these facilities. So these facilities are open till 9 p.m. Outdoor sports encourage teamwork, discipline, and resilience. Participate regularly to maintain physical and mental wellness. Sports help develop leadership and interpersonal skills. We have many outdoor sports facilities like cricket, football, basketball, volleyball, cricket practice nets, tennis courts. So we have all these outdoor sports facilities. Along with that, we also have one 350-meter the jogging track. Sustainability is an integral part of MAHE Bengaluru's vision. Our campus incorporates renewable energy, water conservation, and environmentally responsible infrastructure. As future scientists, you also have a responsibility to promote sustainable practices. Under the leadership of Dr. Ranjana Pai, the President MAHE Trust and Chairman MBMG, MAHE continues to grow globally. The university is investing in research, innovation, and academic excellence. You are now joining MAHE during an exciting period of its expansion. Your success will be defined by your knowledge, integrity, curiosity, and perseverance. Make the most of every opportunity to learn, research, collaborate, and innovate. Dear students, today you begin not merely another academic program, but an exciting journey towards becoming researchers and innovators who can transform healthcare and improve lives across the world. I wish each one of you an enriching, productive, and memorable journey at MAHE Bengaluru. Once again, welcome to MAHE Bengaluru. Welcome to MIRM. So thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prabhu. With that very comprehensive and informative address, I'm sure the students have gained an excellent introduction to MAHE Bengaluru ecosystem and all the academic infrastructure, state-of-the-art facilities, student support facilities, and many other opportunities available across Bengaluru campus. Sir, your insights have provided a wonderful foundation as our students begin their journey. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short coffee break for about 15 minutes. I would request everyone to come back to the auditorium at 11:15 sharp. And thank you. Enjoy the refreshments, but we will continue the rest of the program by our chief guest address, Professor Sivaraman, and our invited guest, Dr. Indumati, and we very much look forward to the continued program. Please enjoy the refreshments. Welcome back, everyone, after this short break. So now we would like to continue the rest of the program with the scientific session. I would like to invite Professor Prasanna on the stage to invite our chief guest. Professor Prasanna.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank Dr. Shivraman because in a very short notice, I think in just one day, he agreed to be the chief guest of this event, and I'd really like to thank you for that. He's a very, very humble scientist. He has very, very proactively engaged with MIRM with respect to neuroscience research. He's part of our doctoral committee member as well, and he has co-published with some of our faculties at MIRM. So Dr. Shivraman's journey shows what interdisciplinary research is, because he's basically a biophysicist who has been trained at NIMHANS. He has authored more than 30 publications. He has earned his PhD in biophysics at the prestigious University of Basel, Switzerland, and followed by postdoctoral research at Riken Center, Japan, and NTU, Singapore, before joining NIMHANS in 2017. So his lab focuses on decoding the function of key proteins associated with neurological disorders under normal and disease-specific conditions towards developing biomolecules and disease-modifying drug molecules. For the last 5 years, his group has been studying alpha-synuclein and tau proteins associated with neurological disorders such as Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. His recent work has uncovered the nuclear physiological role of alpha-synuclein and revealed how Lewy body formation leads to a newly proposed model for Lewy body formation, because alpha-synuclein and nuclear roles were not much understood before, and I think that would be very first from his laboratory. We would be very excited to hear from you, Dr. Shivraman. Over to you.
So, very good morning to one and all. So, thanks to Professor Jyoti for the invitation to this orientation program. And it's supposed to be Professor Balram from IISc is the one who is supposed to be invited for a chief guest. And he's a very accomplished scientist from IISc. He is a very good orator. I don't know whether I could be able to fill his shoes. It's very hard, it's difficult. Right? So somehow I try to do my best to convince or tell a story about what we are doing as a on alpha-synuclein. So today I'll talk about, there's a protein called alpha-synuclein. I just talk about how it's double life, meaning this particular protein is one of the neuronal protein and does many roles in physiological conditions. And one point of time, it changes its behavior characteristics. It becomes a rogue, meaning it kind of lead to a disease condition. So our lab mainly studies both understanding the physiology of these proteins, how it changes its behavior under disease conditions. That's where we are focused on. Right. So as you all know, that the biggest discovery of last century in the medical field is two things. I consider one is the antibiotic, or you can take as a vaccine. Because after COVID-19 pandemic, vaccine played a very important role protecting us, right? These two important discoveries of last century helped us to live longer. If you take just about 100 years back, life expectancy is somewhere around 35 to 38 years. Now we are almost double the life expectancy because of these discoveries. But it led to a different problem now, because we end up living longer, because many of these neurological problems are associated with the age. If you see the graph here, most of these diseases starts, neurological problem starts at very late age. After 50s and 60s, you can see that about 65 it peaks actually. So if you remove the stroke, this dark blue one, and if you consider this Alzheimer's and other dementia, and Parkinson's disease is a 1 and 2 in terms of affecting the human population. Globally, there are millions of people affected by these diseases. It's a very challenging problem, okay? So due to the aging thing, it's a very huge problem. If you take proteins who are associated with these diseases, they have the kind of characteristics. This is known for their aggregation properties, okay? It is a signature of these neurological problems. So here I have listed, because if you take Alzheimer's, more than 20 proteins are associated with, but among which there are few extensively studied, like beta-amyloid, tau proteins, and beta-synuclein is associated with the dementia with the Lewy bodies. If you take a Parkinson's disease, there are multiple proteins again associated with, among which alpha-synuclein is the very extensively studied protein. So my lab at NIMANS, for last 8 years, we work on understanding this particular protein, how the alpha-synuclein. So basically we are trying to address two fundamental questions. Okay, we have two fundamental questions we are trying to address in our lab. This particular protein, it is known for its nuclear localization, meaning because the nucleus stores a genetic material, so this protein goes to the nucleus. But what this particular protein does within the nucleus, it has not been understood since last 3 decades. People have not studied it, right? The second question is the Lewy body. The Lewy body, I'll come later, I'll discuss more about it. It is a century-old problem, right? This Lewy body happens under pathological conditions in case of Parkinson's disease, but how this formation happens, it has not been addressed. We don't know. Like even now, even after 100 years of discovery, more than 100 years, we don't know how that happens under pathological conditions. So we focused on addressing these two problems. So here, the patient with the Parkinson's disease, I think maybe some of you heard about this disease. The patient shows tremor in his left hand and left leg. Okay, these patients shows the bradykinesia, change in the posture, the cognitive decline with the age. It is not only challenging for the patients, it is also for the caregivers who take care of these patients, because they cannot do their day-to-day activities, right? As of 2021 estimates, there are about 11.7 million people are affected by this very disease, of which 10% lives in India, more than 1 million population, right? And because we have 1.4 billion people, we are an aging population, so this number is expected to increase. We have a huge problem before us. I think this is for the new generation to take up the new challenges, right? So if you take a brain, there is a region in the brain called the substantial nigra. This part of the brain produces small molecule called dopamine, which controls the balance and movement of our body, right? If you take here, this is the healthy brain, the cross-section of the healthy brain, and here, this is a deceased, in the case of Parkinson's disease patient. This is the brown arced region, it is substantial nigra, which produces dopamine. You can see that this region is completely degenerated in case of Parkinson's disease, lead to shortage of dopamine. So, lead to the particular problem, yeah? So before going to our research, I want to give the overview, the history of Parkinson's disease, also about alpha-synuclein, to understand the challenges before us, right? So this disease, Parkinson's disease, was first reported by James Parkinson in the year 1817, hence the name Parkinson's disease. There is Also, Lewy body, this is a cytoplasmic inclusion. It was first reported by German neurologist in the year 1912. Hence, the name was named after him, like a Lewy body. It's a cytoplasmic inclusion. It's a pathological hallmark of synucleinopathies. It took in 1998, the alpha-synuclein protein was first reported from the ray fish. It is a protein with presynaptic and nuclear localization. But at that time, 1998, there is no connection was made between alpha-synuclein and Parkinson's disease. It took next 10 more years, like in 1997. There are two landmark studies came out. One, there is a mutation in alpha-synuclein gene, which lead to a Parkinson's disease. And the second important discovery is this Lewy body, the cytoplasmic inclusion, contains alpha-synuclein as one of the major constituent. Right? These are major things. Since then, there is a lot of attention this synuclein protein garnered over the period of time. So you can see that the publication, since 1997 it started, there is exponential, like an explosion happened in terms of publication. There are thousands of papers get published, right, on this particular topic. And since many proteins associated with the neurodegeneration, known for its aggregation property at in vitro condition, most studies were biased on studying aggregation as a kind of way of understanding the disease mechanism. But this particular protein is going to the nucleus, right? Because less attention was given in understanding what this particular protein does within the nucleus. That was the less emphasis was given for last 3 decades. So before going to our research, I just want to introduce about this particular protein. It is a small protein, one of the highly abundant protein in the brain. It is about 140 amino acids, right? It is an intrinsically disordered protein, meaning it doesn't have a structure. You would have heard, students would have studied alpha helix and beta sheets. This particular protein doesn't lack these secondary features, doesn't have a structure to it, right? But it has 3 regions. The N-terminal is very amphipathic. So most of the family-associated mutations are localized in this region. The central region, which is also very hydrophobic in nature, which known for its aggregation property. The C-terminal is very acidic in nature, right? So this particular protein in a solution, it exists as an NSMS, because if you take a globular protein, it has some shape to it. But this protein is intrinsically disordered. You don't have a fixed shape. It exists in NSMS. Because this protein has the charge, like opposing charge. One side is very basic and other side is very acidic. They are known to interact with each other. And as a result, forms intramolecular interactions. As a result, it becomes inert and soluble in nature. Right. So before we started, I started my group in NIMANS. So our focus was on understanding the nuclear function of this particular protein. So what was known that time is, this protein is known to interact with the DNA, because the chromatin is nothing but histones and DNA. It is known to interact with the DNA and histones. It is involved in a gene expression and also DNA repair process. I want to draw your attention that this particular protein under pathological condition undergoes excessive nuclear localization, okay, eliciting neurotoxicity in dopaminergic neurons and mouse models independent of its aggregation behavior, meaning under pathological conditions, more of this particular protein going to the nucleus. Right, you can see, imagine that nucleus is the control center of the cell, stores genetic material. All your transcription, replication process, epigenetic things, all happens within the nucleus, right? This particular protein going excessively under pathological conditions. So it's very important to determine what this particular protein does within the nucleus, right? So that's where the main focus for us, right? So I don't go into detail. This paper got published way back in 2021. In the study, what we have shown is that we studied this particular protein interaction with the DNA as well as the histones, we found that this particular protein, alpha-synuclein interaction with the DNA is very non-specific in nature, whereas its interaction with the histone is very specific in nature. Hence, we proposed that possibly this particular protein, function within the nucleus is driven through histones, not through the DNA. That's what we have proposed in this particular study, right? Then we want to expand it, like we want to understand from the molecular level, right? So before going to it, I just want to introduce words like chromatin. It's where how the genetic material is stored. It's nothing but DNA and histones, right? Nucleosome is a repeating unit of chromatin. You hear the structure of a nucleosome. It's a repetition. You can see that they're all repeated, right? So if you take a nucleosome, you have histones at the very center. There are 4 different core histones. We call them H2A, H2B, H3, H4 at the very center, 2 copies of them. And it's wrapped with the DNA, about 146 base pair represented DNA. Imagine that any cellular process to happen, be it a transcription or replication or repair to happen, the chromatin is a very dynamic because it has to assemble and disassemble in the process of transcription, right? So during the assemble and disassemble, there are multiple players play a role during this process. Some of them are chromatin remodulers and histone chaperones. See, when you do a disassemble process, the histones are very basic surface, right? Because it binds the DNA, which is very negatively charged, right? The surface is very charged, and they can bind something very toxic to cells. And if the surface is not protected, because it can bind to the DNA non-specifically, it can lead to collapse of the system. So this histone chaperone plays very important role in protecting or shielding the surface. One of the important role of this histone chaperone. It also helps in, for example, newly synthesized protein from cytosol to translocate to the nucleus. This chaperone plays very important role. Storage, many other roles it has plays. So what we hypothesized that time is this particular protein behave as a histone chaperone in the nucleus. Rest, we want to prove that how this particular protein function as a histone chaperone in the nucleus. There are too many data which please don't look into those. I just kind of put over. What we have done is to prove our hypothesis, because basically what we have done is we have taken an alpha-synuclein protein, we made kind of deleting it, like kind of truncating it, like removing some of the regions. And we used a biophysical technique to study the interaction of this particular protein to the histone assemblies. That's what we have done it. So in this process, what we learned is that alpha-synuclein binds to the histone assemblies very specific and with a high affinity. So, and moreover, the C-terminal part of this alpha-synuclein is very important for interacting with the histone dimer H2A, H2B, whereas the N-terminal of this particular protein is important for interacting with the H3, H4 tetramer. And when we did a sequence analysis, we found that the C-terminal has the motif. We call them a DEF motif. This is present across other dimer-specific histone chaperones. Here we have did a sequence analysis. What we have shown is that this motif is conserved across species, not only human, other organisms as well, meaning this particular protein functions similarly in other organisms as well. With this information, we could able to solve the very first structure of alpha-synuclein with the histone dimer complex. We used a technique called X-ray crystallography. This is the histones, and this is the alpha-synuclein. This is the very first structure internationally. So here, if you see it, this is the is electrostatic surface representation, but meaning is the blue represent the basic charge, meaning positively charged, because histones being a negative, so you can see that it kind of occupy or kind of compete for the DNA binding region of the histones. Oh, sorry, we kind of compete for that. Okay, so we also did an assay called a histone chaperoning assay. It's a competition assay. What we show here is, there is a DNA. When we have both the DNA and histones, you can see that they kind of compete for each other. You can see that when you increase the concentration of alpha-synuclein, the more free DNA is kind of, you can see them actually here. Meaning, here, what we say that is that when we put alpha-synuclein on the nucleosome structure, you can see that basically they are competing for the DNA binding surface. Right, this is the first part of the story. With this, I kind of summarized that for the very first time, we have discovered that this particular protein functions as a histone chaperone in the nucleus, binds preferentially to the histone dimer and tetramer, and involved in nucleosomal assembly process. So one of the reviewers summarized our work with the following statement. Alpha-synuclein is an extremely important protein, whereas its physiological and non-physiological role have been under debate for decades. This current manuscript is a very important contribution to this long-standing conundrum, opening a new avenue of thinking and new experiment to be done, which was very satisfying for us, like working 5 years publishing this work. So it was a reward for us, actually, when such a statement came. This work was published last year in Communication Biology, one of the very prestigious Nature communications. So we kind of also continuing with the other to understand its other roles, because there is also called a beta-synuclein. The same family, because there are 3 proteins, alpha, beta, gamma. There are 3 proteins. This beta also associated with the dementia with the Lewy body. It's one of the common thing after Alzheimer's affect the human population. This beta-synuclein is also kind of, people study, but its function is not understood yet. And some of these mutation has been reported in case of dementia with the Lewy bodies, right? So though alpha and beta, co-localize in the neurons, they have functional redundancy, but how beta function is not been understood. We could able to solve that mystery very recently. We could able to solve the complex structure of beta 2 is as well. And right now we are in the process of writing a paper on that actually. This is with respect to the physiological function of these particular protein, right? The next part of the story, I want to talk about the pathological aspect, right? How this particular changes behavior, characteristics lead to a disease phenomena. Talk about the Lewy body, right? Lewy body is a pathological hallmark of synucleinopathies. It's a group of neurodegenerative disease, which includes Parkinson's disease, dementia with the Lewy body, multiple system atrophy. So these inclusions, cytoplasmic inclusion, consists of alpha-synuclein as one of the major constituent, but not a only constituent, right? The studies have shown that this cytoplasmic constituent contains hundreds of different proteins, also the lysosomes and damaged mitochondria. Here the electron micrograph structure of the Lewy body, you can see that the inner core is more granular, whereas the periphery is radiating filaments. As I mentioned very earlier, this Lewy body we know for more than a century now. We know for more than 3 decades now that alpha-synuclein is one of the major constituent, but the mechanism underlying LB formation, how this Lewy body formation happens, and its cause and consequence, or to its neurodegeneration, is not been understood, or not. We don't know it actually, the mechanism behind it. So this I already spoke about it. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is this alpha-synuclein, it is one of the very important neuronal protein. It has multifunctional role. But this particular protein behave like an inert. It does its function, right? But under pathological conditions, there are two important post-translational modification happens, meaning that is called, say, phosphorylation. There is a residue called serine 129 position. If you see under pathological condition, it is about 4% under normal humans, where it has become 90% under pathological conditions. You can see that there's a drastic increase with respect to this particular phosphorylation. Also, second phenomena is truncation, meaning it gets chopped out because the proteins get chopped out. Okay, so it happens both at the very end terminal as well as the C terminal, but most of the truncations happens at the very C terminal of the protein, right? These are the very two important post-translation modification observed under pathological condition. Since alpha-synuclein came to limelight 3 years back, 33 decades back, most studies were focused on understanding its aggregation, most precisely on the fibrillation perspective. And with that studies, researchers come out with two models, right? One is called aggregation theory. And this model, what it suggests is that if I take an alpha-synuclein protein, if it gets misfolded, it lead to an oligomer formation, and a protofibril lead to a fibrillar amyloid fibrils. The second model is called a liquid-liquid phase separation model, which is very extensively studied very recently, right? What this model suggests that if there is a high concentration protein in the crowded microenvironment, facilitate a nucleation. It forms a liquid-like droplets, which leads to the, mature to form fibrils. But if you can see these two models, they only talk about the fibrils. But if you consider Lewy body is a heterogeneous mixture, because we stop here, we don't talk about how this particular phenomena happens, how various proteins come together to form Lewy body. Never been addressed. Nobody touches it, right? And moreover, because there is an advancement in a cryo-electron microscopy very recently, most studies were focused on understanding the ultrastructure of these fibrils. But remember that most of these fibrils are in vitro made using purified proteins, right? Even for the last 3 decades, most research around the globe has been focused on finding a molecule, a small molecule, or therapeutic antibodies targeting aggregation, right? But they all fail miserably in the clinical trials. Even last 3 decades, we have not found a single molecule, right, which can reduce or slow the progression of the Parkinson's disease, right? So if you take that, like levodopa, which is very commonly used in case of Parkinson's disease, is a 1960 drug. The last clinically approved drug is somewhere in 1992. We have not made a single molecule in the last 3 decades, right? That's a challenge before us for the new generation to work on, right? So that's what, like the whole idea is, the whole field has been biased, studying only fibrillization. They've overlooked the molecular complexity of this particular disease, right? But if you take the recent study with respect to the Lewy bodies, right, they kind of did the structure using the patient brain sample, all right? What this structure showed is that it is a heterogeneous mixture. Yes, there are too many molecules within it. But what the study said is that precisely the alpha-synuclein fibril is not present in the Lewy body, right? So the precise molecular state, how this alpha-synuclein protein present in this Lewy body is not been understood, right? So it's very under debate, highly debated one. So the most focus is on fibrillization centric. So the idea should kind of shift from that fibrillization centric to focus on how alpha-synuclein sequesters various biomolecules to form Lewy body. Should be the fundamental question to be addressed, not the fibrils, right? So what we have done is, we did the following studies. We did a study, the assay, which is called thioflavin T assay, Basically, it is you kind of understand the aggregation property of the protein. Here we used both wild type of alpha-synuclein and also disease-specific variant of alpha-synuclein. So what happened is this, it is a fluorescent-based assay. This particular fluorophore binds to the groove formed by the cross-beta sheets formed in the amyloid fibrils. Once it binds this fluorophore, this rotation get kind of fixed. So as a result, you have a precise excitation emissions. So when the fibril formation, there is an increase in the intensity for that. So this is how you see it. There is a lag phase, growth phase, and a plateau. So when you see here, what we have done is we compared how alpha-synuclein wild type and with the physiological change. Like for example, if you had changed the pH and the calcium, we used divalent. So if you see that even after 40 hours, alpha-synuclein doesn't aggregate at all. Whereas when we add calcium or a change in a pH, you can see that the aggregation was very rapid. So it starts somewhere with the calcium, like 10 hours, it reaches plateau within 30 hours. Whereas for the pH also, it's very rapid in nature. Then we try to compare the alpha-synuclein with the disease-specific variant, right? So here we used a truncated version of alpha-synuclein and also the disease-specific serine 129 phosphorylation, which I mentioned earlier. So here I just want to draw to our attention here is at a neutral pH, this protein resists aggregation, whereas disease-specific variant, they immediately forms aggregation. What it means is that what we learned from the study is the C-terminal, the acidic tail of this particular protein is very important for its shielding this protein from its aggregation property. Right? It's very soluble in nature. Once you disturb an acidic C-terminal tail, either by changing a pH or by adding divalent things, or you kind of truncate it out under disease conditions. So what happens is the hydrophobic region is exposed. It makes them very reactive in nature. It forms a fibrils. So if you take globular protein, right, this hydrophobic residues plays very important role in a protein folding, right? So they kind of buried. Whereas if you take intrinsically disordered proteins, which doesn't have a structure, but still they have a larger hydrophobic regions, they resist aggregation under aqueous conditions, right? So imagine that in case of alpha-synuclein, which defies this paradigm, which is one of the highly abundant protein, but still it has a larger hydrophobic region, right? So instead of studying aggregation phase separation, yes, it forms, but we also want to bring a different thing as like how this exposed hydrophobic regions promotes the promiscuous non-functional interactions. What does that mean is, say if you take a cell, it's a very highly crowded environment. You take, there are about 2 to 4 million proteins present per cubic micrometer. They are very super crowded environment, right? So even though it is a crowded environment, the proteins strictly follow rule of engagement. Meaning, for example, if you take a hemoglobin, its purpose is to take oxygen, bring back carbon dioxide. It doesn't interact non-specifically to the other proteins, right? The functional interaction meaning is they are very specific, right? Proteins, they don't unnecessarily interact with the other proteins randomly, right? They strictly follow the evolution, do the precise biological role, and they are mainly driven by the hydrogen bonds and salt bridges. But if you take a non-specific interactions, they are very random in nature, very promiscuous in nature, lacks the evolutionary selection, and they are mainly mediated by the hydrophobic interactions. Hence, if you take a cells, not every protein in a cell, they are present in the same level. There are some protein maybe in a higher amount, some protein in the lesser amount. If you take highly abundant proteins, they are highly soluble, they have less of hydrophobic surface. If you take them, they are inversely correlate with the low abundant protein. Generally, they are very high about, in the hydrophobic surface, low abundant proteins. But if you take alpha-synuclein, they defies the paradigm. It is one of the highly abundant protein, but still it has large portion of hydrophobic regions. It defines the paradigm. So hence, what we have asked is, like instead of going with the aggregation phase separation, generally people does it, we asked whether this exposed hydrophobic region drives the promiscuous non-functional interactions. That's what we have asked, okay? So what we have done is, I just kind of sum it up here. So what we have done is we used a biophysical approach to study the protein-protein interactions. Here we used wild type of alpha-synuclein, and we also taken wild type of alpha-synuclein. Also made some disease-specific application constructs of things. Basically, then we tried to study the interaction between the two proteins. So what we noticed that when there is a wild type versus wild type, no binding. It is no binding. As the truncation kind of gets deeper, you can see there is a increases as the degree of truncation increases, the binding affinity increases. That means extent of hydrophobic, this is more exposed hydrophobic regions. Right, that's what we have seen. Okay. So we also carried out, there is a technique called NMR spectroscopy. Here also we studied the interaction between the wild type and wild type, no binding, whereas we did with the wild type with the disease-specific variant, we saw the binding. So it is clearly there is a promiscuous non-functional interactions. Right. Then we tested for alpha-synuclein. So we asked question like, how about the protein present in the living bodies? For that, we have taken alpha-synuclein full-length wild-type protein. We also taken 2 disease-specific variants of alpha-synuclein. So what we noticed is that, I don't go into the number, so what we have noticed that when there is acidity there, this particular variant has high affinity, promiscuous, and non-functional interaction with all the protein state. LB, we have different protein, got a same results, right? The exposed hydrophobicity lead to the promiscuity. And if you take the disease-specific other variant like a serine 129 phospho-mimicking version, but it has an intermediate affinity. We also see the promiscuity there, but whereas the wild type one, which is very specific in nature. This is the summary we have learned from this study. So wild type is specific, followed by the serine 129 phospho-mimicking, and whereas the truncation lead to higher promiscuity, meaning have higher hydrophobic exposed regions. This is the summary of it. Disease-specific variant, we saw it is engaged with the promiscuous non-functional interactions with the wild type LB-associated proteins and a wide array of cellular proteins, irrespective of their shape, size, and charges. That's what we have observed. So just one more thing, like because this is chaperones, because these are proteins involved in, protein folding, because these are the proteins also present extensively in the living bodies, right? These proteins specifically bind to the hydrophobic region of the protein, help them to protein fold. So what we have observed is, we asked a simple question. How about the folding get affected by this disease-specific variants compared to the wild type? We saw that yes, the disease-specific variant affect the protein folding. As a result, it also have an impact on the global protein homeostasis. With this, we came out with a new model, right, which kind of very different from the existing ones. The existing ones are aggregation theories, LLPS, but they don't talk about the living body formation, right? They stop there with the fibrils. In our model, we have shown that disease-specific variants drive the living body formation through promiscuous, non-functional interaction with the spectrum proteins, resulting in multifactorial toxicity. It is very different from the existing ones. And this work was recently published in the Communication Biology, one of the very prestigious journal, Nature group, right? So with this is my group. Most of the work being done by one of the smartest students I have, like Sneha Joss. She recently completed her PhD. She worked on both the problems, taking a challenge, and she was supported by Niharika as well as Archana Lakshmi. So I would like to also special thanks to my collaborator at Manipal, Sangeeta Nath. She was with us in all these, both the publications. We kind of that she helped us in cellular function. So her support was very crucial for us, right, in doing this study. And I would like to thank my other collaborators, like Neelagandan from INSTEM and Deepak Sharma from IMTech Chandigarh, right? So maybe in the final, I would like to end with the two statements from the young students who are joining here. So I just want to share my experience, life experience. When I was in Japan as a researcher, postdoctoral researcher, I had an opportunity to interact very closely with one of the very reputed scientists in Japan. I asked him a very simple question. What is his advice for the young researcher like me? What are the things to focus on? He said, one thing, focus on the question you would like to address, not on how you address is a second comes. First is focus on the question. So I think this is your journey. I think you can think of long-term views, study hard and look out, or you identify your problems, what you would like to address in your career or as a researcher. Second, I would like to say that as when we had these two problems working on, because it's very new, because generally we always follow the Western templates. We follow the Western templates, whatever it's been done, we try to follow, emulate it, right? But these studies are originally from India, probably I can say, and these are original articles. But we faced enormous challenges with respect to fundings, but we never got it, but still somehow managed with the wonderful collaborators I have. But we hold the ground. So believe in yourself, don't give up, basically. So if you think that's the right thing, please hold the ground, do it. Right? Don't give up easily. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Professor Sivaraman. I would like to open the floor for questions. If anybody has any questions, please go ahead. One in the back. Maybe you can shout it and I will just repeat it. Yeah.
So coming to the point, you talked about the truncation, right? So these are one of the early events it happens, truncation. So how it happens, not very much. But one consider, because if you take a living body, because I didn't talk about today, or I didn't show it, but if you take the inner core of the living body, mainly consists of truncated alpha-synuclein variant, meaning that is the primary driver for the living body formation. Then comes, because if you take a system, cell system, because this is very toxic when the truncation happens, but cell system want to fix it, right? Somehow prevent the toxicity. Hence, we believe that maybe phosphorylation is happening, right? The serine 129 getting phosphorylated, but it is not behaving as a wild type. Still the promiscuity is there, not as bad as, but still there. As a result, if you see the periphery of the living body, it mainly consists of phosphorylated serine 129 phosphorylated alpha-synuclein. Yeah. Yes.
Maybe if I could ask a question. So you talked about the phosphorylated. What's the kinase that controls it? And then, during aging, is there some control about the phosphorylation? Is it neuronal specific? How does this work?
Okay. There are a couple of kinases has been reported, like Apollo-like kinase and casein kinase. They know that this kind of phosphorylated serine 129 positions, but At the cellular level, I'm not very sure, like, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I have a couple of questions, in fact. One thing is these Lewy bodies, it's a basic thing. Is the cause of the neurodegeneration or the result of the disease? Because these Lewy body examples are not specific for SNPCs. They are also present in VTA, they are also present in olfactory bulb DA neurons once alpha-synuclein start misfolding. But those cells are spared from degeneration, majorly to begin with. Later on, yes, they also will die. But it is the SNPC Lewy bodies which majorly cause them to die.
Right.
But how come?
Maybe particular cell types are very vulnerable compared not every cell types. Like it has, every cell types behaves very differently. Maybe this alpha-synuclein, substantial nigra could be very vulnerable to the alpha-synuclein getting truncated. So because, see, what happened is, as you said, truncation is very toxic. And you said whether it is kind of an initiator, that kind of things. Because, see, maybe my view is that probably this is the outcome of it, because the truncation happens. People reported that happens at very early in the disease conditions. But it's interacting, because what we think is that our study suggests that probably it is interacting with the randomly with the wide range of protein, if you kind of imagine, in the vicinity. It is more like a triggering additional interactions, forming kind of an agrisome kind of things, where cell machinery may not be in a position to remove them completely. As a result, they all kind of come together to form a living body. That's what we think, actually.
Because the disease PD starts from the olfactory bulb, if you look at it.
Yeah, right.
To begin with, then only it reaches the SNPC region.
Right.
So those are the questions which are still
There's a lot to be done.
Yes.
But, that's I kind of agree with you. There is a lot to be done. That's what, like, it's for the younger generation to take up. Yeah.
And the second question is about the nucleus. You don't see Lewy bodies in the nucleus.
That's a difficult question to ask, because Sangeeta is doing some experiment for us.
Because majorly cytosolic inclusions. So does alpha-synuclein goes to the nucleus, and do you see the aggregate? Aggregate goes into the nucleus.
Yeah. The answer, she will kind of.
I think your first question, I can little bit what our thinking process is in the cell type basis for the role of alpha-synuclein, what we are seeing, it's not aggregate. I think some of the unfolded monomer versions probably may going, yeah. And the chromatin modulations, I think cell type dependent is different. So for that reason, dopaminergic we are seeing where that survival genes are not getting activated. But in case of astrocytes, where we are I am seeing is very much yeah, in the later process, if you go later hour, more aggregates getting included. But I think, but our observation is actually it's a monomer unfolded base actually interacting how in the structural studies we are seeing.
So we have serine 120 and phospho nuclear structure as well. So they behave very differently.
Very differently, and lot actually goes to nucleus.
Very differently than the wild type. You are coming out.
I'm coming out.
You are still working on.
And
they
as
still working on. But what I can say is they work very differently than the wild type. They behave very differently in the nucleus. Yeah.
Is there any report that this alpha-synuclein, this Lewy body, can be used as a biomarker to detect the disease progression?
See, people try to use the serine 1.8 phosphorylation as a thing. Yes, because in the blood, a lot of alpha-synuclein present. Even RBCs has the alpha-synucleins. So people are trying it. I think one way to approach, maybe we have to find how to detect it actually. I think that is one has to look into it actually. We are also interested. Yeah, so to work on those things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you again for such an enlightening talk from, the basics of protein folding all the way to how the disease progresses through different modifications of the protein structure. I'd like to again invite Dr. Jyoti to invite our next speaker, Dr. Indumati. Please, Dr. Jyoti, go ahead.
Who is an associate professor at Institute for Stem Cell Science and Regenerative Medicine, BRIC in STEM. Her career trajectory is actually a testament of the fact that fundamental biology and translational sciences can coexist. And you can actually mix and match both to find solutions in the clinic. Her career trajectory almost crossed paths with me at several junctures. She also started her career in a clinic. She did her fundamental training in Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology at Hyderabad, where she worked on looking at how A-type laminins affect phase determination, specifically in the connective tissue lineages, and its effects on aminopathies. Following that, in 2008, she joined the LV Prasad Eye Institute at Hyderabad, which is involved in translational research in eye diseases. In 2025, she moved to BRIC in STEM Bangalore, where her research focuses on using corneal organoid models to understand corneal development, and also interfaces in using gene editing technologies to reverse genetic diseases associated with the eye. Welcome you, Dr. Indumati.
Very good afternoon, all of you. Thanks to Jyoti for inviting me, and it's my pleasure to be here to share some of our experience with all the newly joined students who are all excited about starting your journey in the field of stem cell biology and regenerative medicine. My area, my lab works on eye biology. So in the sense that how do we see and why some of the patients have problem in perceiving, and some of them are inherited diseases in the sense that the parents carry some genetic defects which are silent in the parents, but then children, when they're born, they have problems in vision either at birth or they slowly undergo degenerative conditions. And we are trying to understand what is happening and why the disease manifests in some people. And some of the genes are basically expressed all over the body, but the phenotype is seen only in the eye. So why eye is something that we are trying to understand. So apart from that, we also are focused on, can we do something about treating these patients? Can we develop some therapeutics which are either cell-based? If it is inherited conditions, can we do something about the gene so where the problem can be corrected? And can we offer a treatment modality? So that's broadly the research focus of my lab. And it's a challenge for most of the scientists to address a lay audience. So apart from the students, I see a lot of parents sitting here. And I'll try to keep my jargon less and hope I can communicate the science in a simple manner that you can understand.
So I will talk about some of the inherited conditions, particularly focused on retinal degenerative conditions. Retina is the tissue that's in the eye, which actually senses the light and sends a signal back to the brain for perception, visual perception. So be it bright light vision versus dim light, or between the color visions, whether you're seeing color as red or green as green, is all dependent on the cells that are present in the retina. So there are conditions, you might have heard about color blindness, people with color blindness and people who cannot see, night blindness. They can't see anything in the night when they are in dim light conditions. So there are different spectrum of degenerative conditions in the retina. So we are focused on those conditions. If you look at the amount, this is inherited, somewhat age-related also. More than 60 years as a patient's age, they lose vision because some of these neurons, these are basically neurons, they degenerate and have vision problems. So in case of IRDs, there are over 300 different genes known. So which one to look at? So obviously we can't work on all of them. We end up working on a few of the genes. I'll take you through the example. So I'll come to the basic biology later. So since you are here more interested in stem cells and regenerative medicine, I'll first take you through the translational program that we are working on. Where can we develop cell therapy? If these cells are dying, can we replace these cells with the functional cells? Can we treat these people? So that's one area in which many companies around the world are working, and even in India, there we have many groups we are looking at these aspects. So we can use stem cells for developing these cell-based therapies. So like say example, if you have skin injury, that is a scratch injury, skin heals by itself because you have stem cells in the skin in adults that can regenerate and can repair the damage. But that's not the case in brain or in case of retina, which I'm talking about. These are neurons that are made for life at birth. So if there is cells that are dying, they're not regenerating at all. You're only gradually losing vision. But if you have to develop a therapy, you really have to make these cells somehow from somewhere, right? So the source cells, we use stem cells. Not all stem cells can make specialized cells like photoreceptors. So that's where we go back to cells that are present in the embryo, like embryonic stem cells. So you have embryos, the embryonic stem cells that are present in a fertilized embryo can make the whole body develop from those cells. So there are cell lines that are available. You can differentiate them, like how the embryo develops in the womb. You can actually take these cells forward in the process of development in the dish, and you can make any cells in the body, like your skin cells, heart cells, kidney cells, any of them can be made. Now we have over decades of experience in this, that people are making sufficiently functional cells from these stem cells. And as Jyoti was mentioning, in 2007, we have a landmark discovery about that you can actually convert any cells, whether it is skin, blood, or any of these cells, back into an embryonic state like an embryonic stem cells, which is called induced pluripotency. This was a Nobel-winning discovery, which has really made a lot of transformation in the field. Because you really don't have to depend on an embryo, but you can use any cells from the patient. If a patient has a problem, you can take a small amount of blood from the patient or a skin from the patient, and you can make these stem cells which are capable of making the lost tissue. So that has really made transformed the whole field, in the sense that you can really now understand disease in the dish. You can have patients who own cells reprogrammed and have stem cells in the dish, and you can understand, ask whatever question that you want to address in the dish. And you can generate models on which the drugs for the patients, if there is somebody is coming up with hundreds of drugs, we don't know which one is going to work, we can test them in the dish. So that is also possible. And now for regenerative purposes, you can develop these cells, make cells from healthy cells, and can use it for therapy. So this is how our retina will look like. So there are multiple layers. Okay. So there are 3 different layers. The topmost layer, which is the rods and cones, are the ones that are dying in these patients. The patients who have totally lost vision, that outer layer is totally absent in these patients. So what we are trying to do is, can we replace these cells with stem cell derived photoreceptors or RPE cells? So as I explained a while ago, we can actually take these cells through the differentiation process by putting certain growth factors that are required for different fate commitment. Say from, you can push them to become neuron, from the neuron you can also push them to become photoreceptor, light sensing neurons. Okay, so this is how we generate these cells in the dish, and we purify this population, and we can test them in animal models, and we can use them for testing drugs and see how these genes are affecting these cells' functions. So in therapeutic settings, these cells are being transplanted. Either for cornea, it is on the corneal surface. For retina, you just inject the cells subretinally. In patients, these are usually tested in animal models to begin with. So it will be tested in mice, rats, rodents, many of them, and little larger animal models like monkeys and pigs. And then eventually, once the safety and the efficacy has been proved, it will be taken forward for clinical trials in humans. So there are many trials that are now ongoing in clinics in the patients around the world, and these are the reports that I have put up, and they've shown that it is now feasible to develop stem cell based cell therapeutics for some of these conditions. So and not only just a particular cell type, you can also generate a whole organ in the sense of now you might be hearing about something called organoids. So you have eye, which is about 1.2 mm diameter, about 2 centimeter diameter, the whole big eye. But the miniature form, which is about 2 to 3 millimeters, can also be generated. The whole eye, but in a miniature form. Similarly, whole heart or the brain in miniature forms can be developed in the dish. In the sense that, as I said, there are many neurons, multiple neurons. All these neurons are self-organized to form a proper actual tissue-like structures in the body. But these cells, as you differentiate, they self-organize to form miniature tissues, but in a self-organized manner, very similar to how a native tissue will look like. So these are called organoids. Now these organoids can also be developed in the lab. So this is one such retinal organoid that we have generated. So you can see that the multiple cell types coded in different colors are present already in these tissues, and they're organized in a way how a normal retina will look like. And as you even mature, even the photoreceptors like this, because you know the last layer is the photoreceptors, which is shown here in red, also comes up. So now you have the whole tissue, but not the tissue of the actual size, but in a miniature form. You can ask all the questions like what is happening in case of mutations. Like if there is a developmental anomaly, the child is born without a particular cell being fully functional or mature. Now you can have a model system in the dish. Now you don't have to even go to the animals to test it. You can have these stem cell derived organoids in the lab to test and validate some of your basic questions to understand. And also for regenerative therapies, now I have tissues in the lab where I can use it to harvest these cells which are important for regenerative applications. So that's where the field is now, and these organoids can make tissue grafts for applications and also for regenerative therapies. And for RPE cells, there are also other cell types which can grow as monolayer, as sheets, like our skin cells. These are also epithelial cells which could grow, and we can use these cells for addressing these questions. So all of these cells can be derived from a single common stem cell source. So whether I have a stem cells which are competent to make heart cells, and the same stem cells can go through a different program of differentiation and can make skin cells, it can make kidney cells, it can make liver cells. So that's where the process of differentiation is, and the field is really advanced now. And where are we in terms of regenerative applications? Can we use these cells for therapy? Is it possible in India? Yes, we have now trials starting up. So for adult stem cells like skin and other wound healing, we always, there are many programs. We have been doing it for years in India. But for iPSCs or stem cell, pluripotent stem cell based regenerative applications now started picking up in the last 2-3 years. We have a couple of trials that have been already started, and it's been already in phase 1, and now we are moving on this particular trial from iStem, which is also based, and this is a company based in Bangalore here, and this is going to go for phase 2, and hopefully the patients who are looking forward for vision, so far no therapies, will now have some ray of light where some of them at least can be treated with this kind of approaches. So this is one example for eye that I have said. This is also possible for multiple other diseases, be it inherited diseases or for general simple degenerative conditions. So now we'll go back to gene therapy. So what we talk about cell therapy is you have problem in the genes, so therefore the cells are not functional, and the cells are dying, and you're replacing with functional cells, right? So can we fix the gene itself? If the cells are not dying, they're just sitting there, but they're not functional because the gene is not functional, right? So can we go into the cell and fix this genetic problem? So if there is a single point missense mutation because of which there is a problem, can we fix that? So that's what the gene therapy does. What people do is, where you have problematic gene, in that background you deliver a normal copy of the gene, and this delivery is mediated by many viruses. So viruses is used as a carrier, so you remove all your viral genomes and you pack your gene of interest into it and you deliver, because virus can go and infect the cells, and in the process of infecting it will deliver the normal copy of the gene. So that is what is gene therapy, which is gene supplementation therapy. You are having a mutation background, in the background you are adding an additional copy. So a lot of viral vectors have been used. The most will not go into the details, but the AAV adeno associated viruses, which are common viruses, which none of us will show any pathogenicity to these viruses, which is used as widely used vectors for many of the human applications, and many genes are being now packed into these viruses for delivery. So in this case, you will need a virus, you would want a gene construct which will express the gene of interest, and then you have to deliver it into the tissue of interest. So these are some of the areas of research where developing viral vectors, developing gene constructs, delivery systems, and all of that are areas of research. So over the years, you can see that the field of gene therapy has really boomed, and starting from the past 2 decades, there are several gene therapy trials that are ongoing for different disease conditions, for eye, for skin, for brain, blood disorders, mainly hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, many of these conditions where there are single point mutations. Gene therapy has been proven to be very successful, and it is working for many of these patients. So one of these gene therapy vector for the eye, which is called Luxturna, for a condition which is congenital LCA2, which is again children. LCA is labor congenital amaurosis. Children are born blind or lose vision very early, within 5 years. So this gene therapy vector is now available, widely tested in several clinical trials, now commercially available, approved by FDA, but you can see the price tag is huge. About 1 injections, it costs about 7 crores. So that's the biggest challenge. While the technology is available, we really have to develop indigenous technologies in the country and make it affordable for many of these patients. That's the challenge in front of many of us researchers. Can we bring down this cost? And there are many now indigenous technologies now being currently developed in India, particularly for hemophilia and sickle cell anemia. There are groups in CMC Vellore. There are groups here in Narayan Nethralaya and IIT Kanpur developing such gene therapy vectors for some of these conditions like factor 8 and factor 9 gene delivery and HB gene delivery, which is for affected in sickle cell disease. But the cost now in India, because the technology is developed in India, the cost of this product is now anywhere ballpark about 30 to 40 lakhs in India. So even 30 to 40 lakhs by a normal middle class family may not be able to afford, right? So that is the biggest challenge. Like, can we still bring it down, and a lot more patients can benefit from these conditions? So apart from gene therapy, now you have something called gene editing therapy. Many of you would have heard about CRISPR technology, right? So CRISPRs are nothing but the RNA-based nucleic acid systems where RNA goes and decides where the mutation is, and you have an enzyme, which is Cas9, that comes and cleaves the DNA and corrects this mutation, okay? So this is basically like you are editing it, and rather than delivering a gene into the cell, your native cell, which is that is having the gene that is mutated, you go to exactly that locus in situ and see whether you can change that mutation back to normal function. So that is what is gene editing therapy is, and so this works by an RNA-based mechanisms, because you know that the genome is about 3 billion base pairs, so you should know where the mutation is, and exactly you have to go to that locus and have to do the editing. So that job, searching the genome and finding the location, is done by the RNA, which is the guide RNA, which is enriched, which is delivered into the cell, and then you have the enzyme that will go and cut. So in conditions where the mutation is problematic, mutant gene is problematic, you would want to silence the gene. So therefore you want to disrupt the gene so that the problem can be averted, so the cells can start functioning. But in case where the mutation is dysfunctional and you want to make it functional, you have to correct the mutation. So either of it can be done by the system by different methods. We'll not go into the details, but now it's possible that you can really correct this mutation with this system. So this can be done either outside the body or it can be done inside the body. We call it as in vivo editing is inside the body, ex vivo editing is outside the body in stem cells. Say if you have patients' cells, we can make iPSCs from these patients. So you have patient's own genome, but in the form of stem cells in the dish. You can edit and correct it in the dish. So once corrected, you can genotype and make sure the correction has been effected and the gene is normally functioning. And once that is done, you can actually make the cell of interest. If my retinal cells, or if the patient's retinal cells are non-functional, I can now, after correction, I can differentiate to make functional cells. That becomes patient's own tailored cells, tailored for mutation, tailored and corrected for the mutation. So this is for direct in vivo delivery. People use again viruses, just like how they pack the gene into the viruses. This editing system can also be packed inside the virus and can be delivered. So that becomes a product. You have a viral based product where the mutation can be, editing system can be delivered into the cell. Or you can do it outside. As I said, we make iPSCs for the patients. So now this CRISPR system also has a lot of problems with respect to non-specific interactions with the genome and non-specific editing. But now this technology has advanced in the past 10-15 years. We have high fidelity editors that has come up. Many groups are now coming up with clinically relevant editors that can be used for regenerative applications. So some of which is the earlier system will cut the genome. The genome, once it is cut, it can be prone for a lot of rearrangements and random mutations being incorporated. That is the biggest risk in the cutting-based editors. Now we have editors that have come up which you really don't have to cut the genome, because your guide will go find the location, and this particular enzyme called base editors will go and just switches one base to the other. You have one problematic base, you can just switch it into the correct base, and that brings about gene disease reversal. So now we have adenine base editors which can convert an adenine base to guanine. So therefore, if there is a mutation that is where G is converted to E, you can revert it back. Similarly, for C2T, you have the cytidine base editors. So it's now possible that use this without cutting the genome, you just find the location where the mutation is, you can just convert and switch the bases, and you can bring about gene correction. This has also been tested in a lot of preclinical studies and also in patient-specific iPSC models in the dish, and show that these mutations can be effectively corrected and you can totally restore protein expression in these cell types. So here is an example where in one of the patient, again RPSCA2 patient, where it's a mutation which causes stop codon. Stop codon means a normal coding region. It's converted to a non-coding codon, so therefore protein synthesis is stopped, so therefore the patient doesn't express this protein at all. So you can actually convert this, and you can see that in the mutant cell, which is in the middle, absolutely no protein expression. After you do the editing and conversion, you totally restore the protein expression, which is shown in green. So left side is the normal cells, in the middle is the mutant cell, which is not expressing, so after correction you can totally restore this. So this is possible. Now many groups have shown that in animal models also you can do that, you can restore, and within a week, within few weeks of CRISPR delivery, people have shown that the corresponding protein expression has been restored in animals. Now couple of such products have now entered the clinic, and they have been approved by FDA. In India, we really don't have any CRISPR-based clinical trials as of now, but down the line we would expect, because many of our groups in India is also working, and it would be a good exciting field for many of you to consider for research in the future. So Jyoti has asked me to also introduce about these organoids. I told you I've shown you examples about how retinal organoids can be generated from stem cells. Organoids are miniature organs. And I said it's 2 to 3 mm, whether it is brain, kidney, or most of these organoids in the dish are 2 to 3 mm. I can't, so though they exactly mimic the tissue architecture, these are self-organized structures. But we can't really use it for direct clinical use. Like unlike a corneal graft where the donor cornea comes, eye bank provides these tissues for transplantation. These tissues cannot be directly used in the clinic for therapy directly, but they can be used for harvesting the cell of interest, but not directly because they are very miniature structures. Okay, but there are other things that you can do with these organoids. Here is an example of liver organoids, retinal organoids. I've shown you nice organization of different cell types. Cells know by themselves how to organize. You really don't have to tell them. As long as you provide the right conditions, they will organize themselves. Similarly, you have the eye and brain organoids coming together in the dish, and you have lung organoids. So it's wonderful that these organoids can now function like how a normal tissue will function. So in many of the clinical trials, in earlier studies, many of the drug discovery programs which have worked very successfully in animal models, animal trials, but when it comes to clinical trials, many of them have failed miserably, because your physiology between animal model and human system is totally very different. Many of this, even biochemical pathways are totally different. What is the proof of concept that you have established in an animal models may not be true in humans. Maybe that may be one of the reasons why many of the drugs that have entered into clinical trials have failed miserably after phase 2 and phase 3 trials and never seen the light of the market. So that's because you don't have human relevant systems to test these drugs. And now that you have human relevant, and that too, if you have patient specific model systems, you can actually test what will work for the patient. You can even custom design treatments, regimes, even for cancers. If you have cancer models in between, you can test which drug will actually work for that patient. Such tailored therapies is now possible. It can be tested, and the drug that has passed testing in human relevant systems are very likely to enter into late phases of clinical trials. So that's the advantage of these systems. And you really don't have to rely on animal models. Animal models are really very expensive, and also ethically, and your reliance on animal models will also go down once you have these kind of human relevant models in the dish. So what all can you do? You can test for infection conditions. During COVID, the lung organoids have been widely used for testing many of these viral variants and the drug responses in lung organoids. Drug discovery program, as I said, when you have 1,000 drugs to be tested, you can't rely on animal testing. You have to do some in vitro testing. Traditionally, people do on cell lines. Now you have organoid model system to test and see which are the best drugs that should go forward for animal trials and all of that. So regenerative medicine, of course, you can make cells. These are wonderful sources for harvesting many of your fetal stage cells, which are very good for transplantation applications. And you can develop toxicology studies and understand disease mechanism. That's at the basic level. You can understand many of the genes which are very systemic. So it may be just a simple transcription factor or splicing factor or a checkpoint regulator important for most of the cell functions, but it will show a phenotype only in a particular tissue. So why is that? Is many it's a $1 million question. So such model system can help you address those things. And one example I can tell you is for the retinoblastoma. It's a tumor of the eye. The retina, when it develops, the stem cells there undergo abnormal proliferation and give rise to tumor. This again happens in very young children within 5 years. So it's full-blown tumor. Sometimes it can also metastasize and go to rest of the body and can be can be cause death in these patients. So what we have, so what is traditionally available for these tumors is mostly with the patients who are undergoing enucleations will get these tumor samples, see these tumor samples. But many of the changes that happens, why these cells get first of all form tumors, we won't be able to address in full-blown tumor because a lot of changes happen in those tumor tissues. But what happens in the first go when this particular gene RB1 is getting mutated, right after the mutation, what are the programs that are getting initiated, you will not be able to see or read in a tissue which is full-blown tumor. So in that case, such model systems where you can really perturb these genes in the dish and then create organoids, and you can see, try and understand what is the changes that is happening, why these cells are not able to differentiate, mature, and undergo abnormal proliferation. So here we are showing that some of the stem cells actually are not really differentiating. They are just getting arrested and they are not able to mature. So therefore, they are continuously proliferating and that's giving rise to the tumor. Similarly, here is another example of kidney organoid. This is cystic fibrosis gene involved. There is a gene that's mutated in this particular patient. They have made cyst kidney organoids, and you can see the cyst formation happening. So some of the mutations that people report are not even reported pathogenic mutation. They call it as variant of uncertain significance. It is a mutation that is inherited from the patient. It is a change that is inherited from the patient, but whether this is pathogenic or not, many of the geneticists will not be able to deduce. So if you want to confirm whether that is a particular cause for the pathogenesis, then this kind of model systems can help. Like you have a variant of uncertain significance, you create a model, you can see the cyst formation right in the dish. This is the pathology which has been replicated in the dish. You can clearly see the phenotype, and that will tell you that variant of significance is really pathogenic. So this kind of understanding, this can help. And here is another example. We have different serotypes of AAV viruses. Which virus is good for your cell of interest? Like I'm interested to deliver the virus to retina, and that too there are multiple neurons there in the retina, but I want the virus to deliver the gene only for photoreceptors, not for others. So which is the best serotype? So here is an example. They have tested AAV2 and AAV8 and shown that AAV2 can in fact much better as opposed to AAV8, which doesn't. So that kind of understanding, normally traditionally people do it in animals, use animals to deliver and figure out which is the best virus, and then hope that this can be replicated in humans, which may or may not be correct. So with human relevant model system, you can exactly check which is the right cell type. Similarly, cell type specific promoters. So you want the promoter to be active only in a particular cell type, which is it really happening or not? So you can see that the CME, which is an ubiquitous promoter, is expressing all over the retina, whereas the CRX promoter is expressing only in photoreceptor cells. So if my objective is to deliver a gene into photoreceptors, I would want to use the CRX promoter as opposed to any other promoter. So this kind of understanding and validating when you're developing even product, even for applications, for all this validation, establishing the proof of concept, this kind of in vitro models can really help you. And now people are also looking for toxicology, coming up with drugs. Drugs usually is toxicology studies looks at the effect of the drug on a particular disease, as opposed to, and also whether the drug at the particular dose has any effect on other organs also. Like you can generate this kind of lab on chips, organ on chips, where you can bring in organoids of different cell types together and can analyze the effect of a particular drug simultaneously. So this is basically equivalent to testing a drug in humans directly. You can put it in the drug and then you look at the effect, which is like you can't have, this is usually done in phase 1 trials, right? Safety studies. But now with the organoid system, human relevant organoids, you can actually do it in the dish, make sure shortlist, confirm the safety profile before you even proceeding to phase 1. And finally, now we have technology called 3D printing now available. So as I said, these organoids are miniature, we can't directly use them, but if you want to use them, we have to make them to the size of an actual organ, which is difficult in the dish. You can't, as of now, there is no technology that can make real life organ size tissues in the dish. So now you have engineering technology and biomaterials coming together where you can actually print these organs. Like I've given you an example of how to make a large sheet of skin grafts where you can have biomaterials. Basically, you have collagen and different biomaterials. Biochemists will help you in making these biomaterials. And you can mix it with the cells, which are epithelial cells, which can be generated either from iPSCs or from fresh primary tissues. And you can mix them together and can pattern them. If it is in a valve or a windpipe, all of this can be actually modeled in the lab. And you can design them to the pattern, and you can layer different cells. If you have cells in different layers, you can actually layer them as the normal tissue is, and you can pattern them. So anyway, for in this case, you would have, this is basically, it's a very typically an interdisciplinary science. You will have biomaterial scientists working together with cell biologists and stem cell biologists together and to develop such kind of products. So this is also picking up in the field. I'm sure many of you might be excited to look at and read upon most of these kind of applications. So with that, I will stop, and I hope I have given you some excitements about some of the latest developments here and where the field is moving in the future, and how you can actually, being part of this program of stem cells and regenerative program, can actually contribute and enter into some of this research later in your career. So with that, I will stop, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Yes. So if there are any questions, there's one at the back.
Yes. Yes.
Are there, affected layers. We have to silence it. So after editing, when we do the whole genome sequence and then we could not confirm it, it's binded exactly. Of course, it's not binding the useful genes. And the issue is the crop is not as expected. So that's what, is there any success story in medical where exactly this CRISPR-Cas9 is working? Exactly.
It's definitely working, and the target specificity is something that's very important. whether your CRISPR is really identifying the right location and not binding elsewhere. We call it as an off-target effects. It will go and bind to the target, but then it will also bind to some other region of the genome. So that's off-target is also well known, right? So that's where the screening is very important. So so you are delivering the CRISPR inside, hoping that it is going to go to the locus of interest, but it may or may not go. So that's where the screening comes in. So in a crop-based programs, if you're trying to knock off a particular locus, so you will have an opportunity to screen for progenies, right? So you will be able to identify whether the target has been successfully engineered. So there is a lot of screen process involved in this process. That's where your ex vivo editing, we call it outside. You have the opportunity to confirm whether the change that you're expecting is affected or not, right? But if you're directly putting inside the body, if the CRISPR system is not foolproof, then you have the risk of this kind of unexpected outcomes, which is the risk. That's where people, so you really don't have any in vivo applications coming up or being approved as of now, because the system is still developing. But hopefully in the future it will we'll come up with better technologies.
But one thing is, it's not binding in a off-target locations. Only where the binding locations 21 base pair of exon region we identified, it binds hardly 4 to 5 base pairs, either in the front end, tail end, or somewhere else, and then exactly is it binded all the 22 locations after editing.
Oh, okay. You're targeting to targeting it for 22 locus, not just single locus.
Yes.
Okay. So it's I understand this to be a QTL locus. It's a multi-gene. Okay.
Do we have? I just want to confirm industry whether do we have a CRISPR-Cas?
No. So for polysome, that's the difference between plant system and the animal system. So this particular technology is good enough for monogenic conditions, in the sense that if you have a single locus to target, you can now people are multiplexing, you can have multiple locus simultaneously targeted. But the efficiency at least one target will be affected, would be different for the other locus, right? So that's where you have to really work around the system. So probably in your case, it's because of the multi-locus involved, probably it's not efficiently working in all the locus that you're interested in. Probably one or two locuses maybe still be. But there are good examples even in plant science itself. There are many gene silencing studies
they are
where
working.
It is working, and it's been successfully transferred to the progenies, and people have come up with mutant lines which are better off, and improved nutrition lines are also available right now. Drug resistance, not drug resistance, it's pathogen resistant lines, and improved nutrition lines are also coming up. So in plant science also, it's really make a big difference, because traditionally when you're doing crop breeding, it takes generations, right? It takes 8-9 generations for you to establish a pure lines. Now with CRISPR editing, even within two generations, you can really
genome is also
establish.
not conserved exactly, because a lot of wild species genomes are present inside that the crop what we edited. So whether is it exactly as we expected, will it be conserved in all the locations, or
that you have to work around. So basically, if you are working for a particular species, your CRISPRs, whatever, it's basically sequence-based regions, right? So your sequence have to be confirmed. You need to sequence that region of your interest first, and then design your CRISPR suitable for that region, because between species you will have different polymorphisms happening within the region. So then your CRISPR will not be binding. So I think the first step is to first sequence the region of interest, and then design your CRISPRs for that purpose.
Thank you.
Immune heterogeneity of all those individual cells in an organoid, from every different organ that you're producing on the dish, how much of impact does it bring in to the ultimate function of the organoids as you expect them to see? And is there any plan which you have in order to do an in-depth immune profiling of these single cells in these organoids, which you might be thinking of?
So you mean to say, so for the immune compartments, you mean to say whether these organoids have any immune cells in them?
Do they have any immune heterogeneity?
So that's the challenge. So immune cells doesn't come in simultaneously, because the immune lineage will be different. Say if you're making a new brain organoids, you'll be going through a neuronal pathway, right? So your differentiation program will be driven towards the neuronal process. So not all cell types do come. Like say in our case, we have seen all neurons being formed in the same organoid, and the neural derived cell types, all of them. There is a single progenitor which will give rise to 6 different neurons. All 6 were present in that organoid, but not other cell types, because your retina not only has neurons, but also your vasculatures are there. So vascular tissues are still a challenge, and even if you see in one of our corneal organoids, we did find vascular structures being developed, but not really the blood cells being identified in those. Your pericytes were identified, but not the vascular endothelium in those structures. So not all of them co-develop, because you are limited by the differentiation method that you follow. You want it to differentiate into a particular lineage of interest, then you're not providing the situation for other cell types to come in. But within that lineage, whatever the other cell types, they get differentiated simultaneously and self-organized. So that's the beauty of establishing primary cultures and studying, where here all the cell types of the same origin, of same tissues, emerge at the same time, and they self-organize to form these structures. But still they do not exactly replicate the tissues, because they don't have all the cellular compartments. Particularly vasculatures are very still, people haven't come up with better methods of also having a vascular tissue being made in the dish.
So that means when you are actually moving towards the 3D structures, which would definitely lead to the organs, this will be a major challenge, right? Because without vasculature,
without vasculatures, you can't use it as a tissue, actual tissue graft.
Yes.
So you can't use it as a tissue graft. But if your purpose is to look for a particular cell function, say in my retinal graft, I'm interested in a photoreceptor function. My organoid is good enough. So that's where, even if these are good model systems, what is the question that you're asking is very important. You need to ask the question that your model system should be able to address. You should have a readout. So say if it's a liver organoid, if you're looking for liver function test, will you be able to do the test with this model system? If you're not able to do this assay, then that's not a good model system for you. So choosing the right question is very important. And so another important thing that I want to tell with respect to organoids is these are very early fetal stage tissues, right? So if you're looking for, say, I'm interested in an age-related condition where the patients are having problem in late stage disease. Over 60, they're undergoing degeneration. At birth, they are fine. Over 60 years, they're fine, but after 60, so I cannot address this question using a fetal stage tissue. So therefore, for an age-related condition, I should not be relying on organoid models for my research. I would definitely need an in vivo model. That's where the animal model still comes and it becomes important. And for dose testing also, I said toxicology, right? You can only check dose and safety in organoids, but if you're looking for the actual dose to be used in humans, that's not the model system. So how much dose do you use? Because what you use for human body is going to be different from how much you will be used in the dish, right? It will only give you an idea, but it still needs an animal model testing. So therefore, you can actually narrow down what else you can actually address with this model system. They're still limited, but better off than the monolayer systems that people have been using before, and then the animal model systems. So they're more human relevant, but not a solution for all questions.
How good are your assembloid models in vascularization? I mean, are they good or
people are looking at that as well? So you establish organoids and then you do a co-culture, or they have to assemble while the tissue is being formed. So you have to either add these vascular cells while the organoids are being developed, see if that can help in organizing the structure. We don't know. I think these are open questions that people should be addressing to how can we make these structures more tissue relevant than what we can achieve so far.
Let's thank Dr. Indumati again. So actually there'll be a little change program. We will do the talk by Professor Shagufta in the session post lunch. So post lunch we will have all the sessions where you can actually get to know a little bit about how the curriculum runs and also about the campus as well. So now the morning session has concluded, and so it's my pleasant duty to propose the vote of thanks. So first of all, I'd like to again express our heartfelt thanks to our chief guest, Professor Sivaraman, for taking the time and agreeing really, just a few days notice and giving us such a breadth of covering the topics from protein structure all the way to disease. And of course, our other invited speaker, Professor Indumati, of actually giving a talk, I think that was accessible to most of the audience. So thank you for doing that. That was really a nice presentation. And I think me being an instructor where I have to teach gene editing, a lot of your slides are going to be very useful for me. So thanks a lot again. I'd also like to thank our additional registrar, Dr. Raghavendra Prabhu, for telling the students about the campus. And of course, without the support of our Dean, Professor Jyoti, this orientation program wouldn't have been possible to do. Of course, the staff members and student volunteers and all of you here for, being so engaged and making the seminar talks also so vibrant. So thank you once again, and I wish all of the new students a rewarding and memorable journey at MIRM. So now we will break for lunch, but the afternoon session will begin again at 2 p.m. So that's when we can meet again back at AB5, and that's when we will start with the session of Dr. Shagufta, followed by the sessions of the library, the sports, and wherever you would also have questions regarding all of those, they would be addressed. Okay, thank you everyone.